Hello everyone, it's now Campbell coming at ya with another video, and today we have a number of things going on. We have a new backdrop. Yes, that's exactly what you think it is in the background. It is a ship wheel. I'm filming these out of quarantine now, so we will change up the backgrounds a little bit more than what you're used to. So enjoy that. Today is the continuation of my adventure as a Disney Cruise Line crew member. Today is the second part of the three-part series for now. Again, I may have more planned in the future if these are popular enough. This week, we're going to be talking about what a normal week looks like to me. Well, the few weeks that I had that were regular. I had 3 weeks on board before the world had other plans, but they kind of don't change much. So I'm going to go over what a normal week looks like for me. Of course, every department is different, of course. So I'm going to tell you about my role in particular. I was a merchandise sales associate on board the Disney Fantasy during normal times, and kind of the role doesn't change up that much during normal operations. Particularly now that the world's going to have different plans, things might look differently, but this is sort of the overall experience that I had. I worked 7 days a week, around 70 hours a week. I know it sounds like a lot, but honestly, when you live where you work, there's no commute. So for a regular, 40-hour job, you have to add commute time in there. So just think of it like we're working through our commute, sort of. That's one way to put it, I guess. So, but honestly, you get used to it. You get into a routine, and I'll go through that sort of routine at another point, like a day, what a day looks like for me. But the working week sort of depends on the itinerary. Where I was on the Disney Fantasy, I got to experience 7-day cruises most of the time. However, they could be sort of 8-day cruises or 9-day cruises. But you could kind of divide them up into different categories of what type of day you would have. And of course, like I said, this mileage may vary depending on the length of cruises. There are 3 types of days that you could have. One, you've got embarkation day. This is sometimes referred to very rarely as turnaround day. So you've got a day where the guests that were on board get to go off board, and then you've got the new guests that come on board. So the previous guests get off and the new guests get on. We've got sea days, which is where the ship is at sea, and port days. So that could be either docked, tied up at a dock, at a port of call, or sometimes anchored at sea, where you could take boats to get to the port as well, because the port might not be big enough for the cruise ships or for whatever other reason, but guests and crew could take tender boats if they were allowed to get off to go to the particular ports of call. My ship, the Disney Fantasy, was based out of Port Canaveral, and we ran on a Saturday to Saturday basis. So Saturday was turnaround day. So embark day was crazy. We started Saturday morning, 7 a.m. This was load day. So 7 a.m, embark morning, load day. So that's where they would bring on pallets of merchandise for the shops, the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique and the cruise shop. And we'd have to put them away in the stock rooms or up to the shops to stock those stock rooms and the shelves with all the different merchandise. I liked the breakdown part of it, and I was still learning where things were in the stock room, so I never really was associated with the stock room much. You'd kind of go with the flow as well. Everyone would just get in and get it done because it's Port Canaveral, and everyone that could get off the ship wanted to get off the ship. We finished around 10, 11, then we could get off the ship, and as long as we were back on board by All Aboard, which was typically around 3:15, as long as we were on board by that All Aboard time. Otherwise, you get fired. If you miss the All Aboard time, there is nothing. You are done. And then you have to find your own way home. So it is very strict, the All Aboard time. Crew all aboard was about 30 minutes before guest all aboard. But again, you checked the gangway vigorously before you got off the ship because you needed to be back by that time, before that time. Once a week, also on embark day, there was one opportunity from the shops and 2 opportunities from the boutique, and we'd have the boutique people from the Bibbidi Bobbidi boutique help us with the load, as well as they had to do their loading as well. So 2 people from the boutique and 1 person from the shops got to do what's called welcome line. I unfortunately never got to do welcome line. I'm sad, but next contract, welcome line, I'm coming for you. That one was around an 11 o'clock start, I believe, to about 3:15. And then you would literally sit there as they announce the families. It's like, welcome aboard the Jones family for 4 hours. And then you would have a break from that. You'd break for about, I think they had about a 20-minute break between sets, if that makes sense. Then everyone has a break until 3:45. 3:45 is guest drill, is the start of guest drill. Now, guest drill is where the guests have to go to their assigned assembly stations, check in, and get shown how to wear a life jacket. And oftentimes people from the shops would be traffic control and showing people out to where their assembly stations is. Thankfully, I did not have a safety duty. I did not have to participate in the guest drill, but I did have to participate in the crew drills, which we would have every other week. So that would happen, and then that would finish around 4:15, 4:30, depending. But you'd get dismissed from that. Then everyone would start at 5:15 to open the shops at around 5:45. The thing with the shops is we cannot open the guest shops while we're 12 miles within the shore. So we have to be 12 miles out at sea to open the shops. So that kind of varied on embark and port days, as you will see throughout this video. So 5:15 we would start to open up the shops. At 5:45 we'd have like a pre-shift meeting. We would have a few people from the boutique to help us out because embark day was stressful because it was very busy. Then we would close the shops at 11 o'clock and we would clean and vacuum and sanitize until around 11:30. Then we would finish. The next type of day that we would normally have are sea days. Sea days are very straightforward. We start at 9:15 in the morning and work right through to 11:30 p.m. That's right, 9:15 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. All day. We were open all day. 1 hour for lunch and 1 hour for dinner. Your schedule will vary depending on how long until breaks, because every break has to go out at some point. Then after the second show dump, we would get a 15-minute tea break. We'd get a 15-minute, you can go get a snack and be back. We did have to clock for those because they have to keep track of it. Sea days, very straightforward. You work all day, 1 hour for lunch, 1 hour for dinner. Port days. Now, port days were a little bit interesting for us because of the way that the shops work. Typically, we were closed in the morning and open when we leave. But we would still work in the morning to do tasks that we couldn't do while the shops are open. Like inventory counts or deep cleaning, like getting down and underneath all the shelves, sanitizing, product knowledge stuff. Things that we, again, couldn't do while the shops were open. For about 4 hours. Typically, we would run from 8 until midday on port days in the morning. Some ports would vary because we would, like in Grand Cayman, for example, we would still be at sea traveling in the morning. If we're still traveling in the morning, we can open. So we would open the shops in the morning. We would start at 8 and open at 8:30 until we arrive at either within 12 miles or at the anchor point where they take the tender boats to go ashore. Grand Cayman was the only exception that I experienced, but of course there are others that could be the case. Nighttime, very stereotypical. So when we left, we opened the shops when we were 12 miles out. Then we would open them typically around the same as embark day. So 5:15 for 5:30, and then we would open, close at 11, finish around 11:30. In addition to all of that, two things would happen on port days. Typically a Wednesday or the day that had the latest all aboard time. We would have around a 30 to 45 minute guest excellence training. That was mandatory weekly. Then we also we'd open the shops after that, because then by that point we would have left and then be more than 12 miles out. I feel like I'm saying 12 miles out a lot. It's very important for our job. Then we would have crew safety drills every other week that we'd have to participate in, and these typically happened at port days as well. Those would be posted, they would vary, but I think they were always on port days as well. At least in my experience. This is, again, all my experience. Then, another port day that was very exciting for us was Disney's Castaway Cay. And for those of you who don't know, Disney's Castaway Cay is a private island operated by Disney in the Bahamas. Exciting. Castaway Day for us was always a Friday. It was mandatory that everyone participated in Tropical Shirt Friday, so that was exciting. At least on board the Fantasy, it was always a Friday. It was always the day before Port Canaveral. So the shops team got divided into two teams. Castaway Day, we also got help from the boutique as well, because we needed the help on the island. So Team A and Team B. Team A would be the morning shift on Castaway. So they would start at 8 o'clock and debark the ship with dining, beverage, youth activities, all entertainment, all the other departments, and they would debark when they were allowed to go all ashore and open the shops, and they would finish around 12 o'clock. And then they were free to go about the island as long as they were back on board on their own accord by all aboard time, because again, that all aboard time is very important. Then Team B would bump them out. So Team B would start around 11:50 to 11:55 to make sure that they had enough time to debrief and then swap out crew. And they would typically work until 5 o'clock. Now, depending on which shop, because we had two shops on Castaway, one shop near the back of Castaway would close at 4, and the other one towards the front would close at 4:30. So depending on which shop you were at, they would close at different times, and you would walk closer to the second shop at the front to help them close as well. And you would go back aboard as a team, and then you would clock out. But you would have the morning. I didn't mind either one. I got to experience both. I liked the morning Castaway shift because then you were done and you could have lunch on the island. I liked Team B because you could spend the morning doing errands on the ship if you wanted to, and then still get off and have lunch on the island before work. There was no time. You just went there to eat very quickly and then go back aboard. Then once we depart port, the evening would roll around and then we'd open the shops. And that sort of, again, depends on what team you were in because of how the breaks within the day would work. Team A would open the shops. They would start at 5:15 typically and open the shops at 5:45. And Team B, who worked afternoon Castaway, would come in at 6:30. And then both teams would work together, close the shop at 11, finish around 11:30. There was a couple of days that we got help from the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique girls in the shops because they're a part of the merchandise team. Embark night and Castaway night. Castaway night, last minute shoppers. That's all I have to say. Last minute shoppers. Because they would get on board and then they'd be like, oh, I need a gift for Aunt Susie. Shout out to Aunt Susie's out there. So yeah, that was my brief overview of what my schedule looked like during a normal operation. And of course, that is just my personal view. It doesn't necessarily reflect the company, by the way. I have to say that disclaimer. And I know every department is different, but typically everyone works on board on the ships 7 days a week, 70 hours a week. It's a lot, but like I said, you kind of get used to it. You live where you work, so there's no commute. Once you clock out, you're at home, which was really nice, by the way. Really nice, only having a 2-minute walk from my cabin to the clock-in machine. I would like to do a life in the day of at some point, if that's something that you guys would be interested in viewing, but let me know. The next video will be the final installment in this series for right now, which is exciting. It is me going through my camera roll, and going through some footage of me while I was on board and the different things that I got to do and experience while on board. So that'll be interesting to share with all of you guys. But if you want to follow my life adventures on board or off board, you can do so over on my Instagram at the Dale Campbell. That's TheDaleCampbell, and there's a dog barking, which we love. But I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching this exciting video. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. I greatly appreciate it. And I'll have another video coming at you real soon, like Mickey likes to say. But until then, thanks again for watching. If you would like to like and subscribe, I'd be greatly appreciated. And if there's anything I can do to improve my presentation, I am all ears. Seriously, my ears are huge. Until then, we'll see you next time. Bye!